All right, we're live. Hi, Jordan. Um, Hello. Hi, iWaited family. This is Maryland, and I have another virtual book for you all. And tonight we're featuring Jordan Branch. She has her blog where she talks about loving dating. She has a new book out, I Believe in God, Now What? And I'm so excited to have her on. Listen, if you guys only knew the craziness it took for us to get on this broadcast. We've been at it for literally an hour. My computer froze up. Her computer froze up. We couldn't hear each other. We're on the phone. I
Right.
mean, so listen, I know Jordan is going to bless us, all of us tonight, because there's no reason why we had so much difficulty. And so I just want to kind of get started out. I want Jordan to kind of introduce herself, tell us about her blog, and what she's doing. So Jordan, the floor is yours.
Hey, how are you guys doing? My name is Jordan. Thanks so much for having me and for stopping by to watch us. As Marilyn said, I do have a blog. It's called JordanWrites.com. And I blog basically for single Christian women. It's a blog that the Lord led me to write about 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago now. And he led me to begin sharing my testimony of overcoming premarital sex and promiscuity, addiction, alcohol abuse, and just different things I used to battle before my walk with the Lord began. And he led me to also begin talking about those things in a bold way. And later on, he led me to share those experiences in my testimony through a book. So it's all there, and I'm looking forward to talking with you all about it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what I Believe in God Now What means to you and what the book is about. Just a
So
snippet.
say it again.
Just a snippet.
Just a snippet, right? Don't give everything away.
You
well,
can't give them all the goods.
well, without giving everything away, I believe in God now. What is my personal testimony, and it teaches women how to deepen their relationship with God through my testimony of overcoming addiction to marijuana, overcoming alcohol abuse, suicidal anxiety, insecurities, all of the things that you can imagine that most people go through. I share it all in one candid book. And so each chapter has a different testimony of something that I overcame to help you grow closer to God in a different way. Uh, so that is basically what I believe in God now, what is about. It really will cater to the woman who is lost and feels purposeless or just wants to grow deeper in her relationship with the Lord.
Okay, so in hearing about the book, what can you say led to that led to you going down that path of the promiscuity, the drug use, the alcohol abuse? Like, what led you to that path? Was it like childhood or teenage influence, peer influence? Like, what was that about?
I was really insecure, and I really was searching for. I've heard once that people who are always having a lot of sex outside of marriage and sleeping around a lot, in the way that I was, are really just looking for love. Like that's really what they're hoping for. And of course, we know what the Bible tells us love actually is God. And so everybody, whether you believe it or not, everybody is born with a void, a God gap, and nothing can fill that God gap until God Himself fills it, or rather, until you allow God to fill it by accepting Him into your heart and having a relationship with Him. And until you decide and understand that He's the only thing that can fill that void, you will forever go on trying to fill other things with that void. It's just going to naturally happen. You're going to think that void can be filled with a man or with a girlfriend or with a boyfriend or with a relationship, or in my case, with marijuana and with fake friendships and all of the other clubbing, all of the other things that I was trying to get myself into. So I was really insecure, and I didn't have a lot of friendships in high school. Really unpopular. Didn't really get along with anyone. Sort of like the reject, so to speak, in high school. And so I think all of those things led to the insecurity and the depression that I later felt, and I was just using what I've talked about to try to fill those voids, but nothing ever worked. So
Okay. So excuse me. What are some of the steps you took to get to the place where, okay, you were delivered from the promiscuity, you were delivered from the alcohol and the drug abuse? Like how did that start? Like, just a snippet again.
it is a snippet, okay. Well, I it was so funny. Well, I share a little bit in my book without giving too much away. I do share in my book that I was raped in 2012, and that was the point in my life where I was like looking around, and nothing that I was already using to try to fulfill me worked to try to cover up this new pain that I was dealing with. And
Mm-hmm.
it was around that time where the Lord sent a friend in my life to witness to me about Jesus Christ. And I had known him for a couple of years at that point. But I didn't know that he knew Jesus or that he had a relationship with Jesus Christ. And we were just sitting down, and he shared the love of Jesus with me and told me all that God wanted for me, and why I was feeling so empty and voidless, and why my life wasn't working out the way I was trying to do it on my own, and why I needed God so much. And so the witness in my life was the person who witnessed to me was a crucial point of how God began to my new journey. So I just want to share really quick that never be shy to share Jesus, because you never know what somebody is going through. And so after that point, I went home and I just started crying on my bedroom floor, and I rededicated my life to Christ. And God led me to a church home called the Feast of the Lord in Orangeburg, South Carolina, that began to really help to develop my relationship with God even further. And because that was their focus on helping individuals to really deepen their relationship with the Lord further. And at that point, it was just continuing my walk in the Lord through reading His Word every day and staying in prayer and learning how to trust Him. And it took a long time, and it's still a journey. But yeah, but that's basically how it happened.
Okay. Um, that's really interesting. So tell me this, did you go to church before this? Like, did you grow up in a church, or how was that journey for you? Because I know there are people that grew up in the church, kind of straight off, or were you never in the church and he was the first person to share Jesus with you?
I had grown up in church, but I had no idea that there was such thing as, I didn't know what it meant to live for God. I didn't know anything about waiting for sex until marriage. I didn't know anything about not being able to go to the club or smoke or drink or any of that stuff. If you I didn't know anything about the fact that God, there was a specific person that God wanted me to be with. And if I tried to live my own life how I wanted, I wasn't going to be in the path of God's will to receive Him. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just knew surface level. Go to church on Sunday, talk about how I'm going to be blessed, sing a few songs and go home and do what you want. And that was about it. And so yeah, to answer your question, I was going to church, but I the church I was going to, it didn't encourage a relationship in the Lord. It was very surface level. It was all about what God can do for you. It wasn't about teaching you what you need to do in your part with the Lord, in your relationship with the Lord.
So that's really interesting that you said. So you were never taught about waiting until marriage waiting until marriage for sex at church. What about at home?
You broke up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll repeat my question. So I said it's really interesting that you said it was never talked about in your church about waiting until marriage to have sex. So what about at home? Was that spoken about?
No, it wasn't, not at my home. No.
Okay.
It was pretty much just and not to put down my family or anything, because I love my family, and I don't want to come across like I'm bad mouthing them or anything. But no, it definitely it wasn't talked about in my home. It was more so just that my my mom, when she did know or did find out that I was having sex, she was like, okay, do you need to get birth control or what have
Mm-hmm.
you? It wasn't ever, I mean, doesn't, the world thinks that you can go to church and have sex and it's okay, even if you're not married. That, like Satan, he's deceived us. He's
Right.
giving us a really deceitful viewpoint of what it means to live for God. And so there are people out there who go to church, and they put on a condom even though they're not married, and they think they're okay because it's safe sex and the world approves of safe sex. But God doesn't approve of that. And so I had no idea. And so my goal is just to make other people aware.
Right. That is so. That was so good. Okay. Let me get my thoughts together. I'm totally going off my questions. I have prepared questions, but this is really good. Okay. So, and when we talk about, I think when we talk about what we didn't learn within our families, I don't think it's putting down our families. It's because, there are certain things that your parents don't want to talk to you about, or they handle things differently because they don't know. Maybe your mother didn't know about waiting until marriage to have sex. For me, my mother always said, wait until you're married to have sex, and that's all I knew, though. I didn't know why. I didn't understand the consequences. I didn't understand soul ties. I didn't understand. Back then, I didn't even understand, of course, diseases, and of course, you don't bring a baby into the house. All this craziness, all this stuff, and so I think it's so interesting how I think where the disconnect happens in the church is because we're not all on one playing level field in terms of what the message is across all fields. So some churches just avoid the whole sex thing. Like, we're not talk about sex. It doesn't exist. You handle it however you see fit. Fine. Some people you're going straight to hell if you fornicate. Whatever, the devil's going to get you. So I really think it's the fact that we don't have a unified message on what the consequences of sex are, and why we should wait, why we should, conserve our bodies and save our bodies for the person that God has for us. And so I really find it interesting that even with your mom, because some moms wouldn't have had that response in terms of get birth control. Now for me, because I work in public health, I work with STDs, and I work in a field where I see a lot of people who, the consequences of them having sex out, and it's sex outside of marriage, for most of the clients that we see, is STDs, and for a lot of them it's HIV and AIDS. And so, of course, I advocate for condoms. If you're not going to wait, because a lot of the people I see are not talking about abstinence. They don't, that's just not what they're on. And so I advocate for using condoms for people who just know that they're not going to wait. Now, in terms of people who are Christians, who say they are Christians, who believe in God, who believe in Jesus, I believe that you shouldn't, I don't carry condoms anymore in my purse because I have no use for them at this moment in my life. And so I just believe that we should have a different mindset. Now, like you said, the enemy has deceived the church into thinking that it's okay, everybody's doing it, what's the big deal? And for the people who are waiting, it's always, well, you're doing a bit much, it doesn't take all that, God will forgive you and all that stuff. So I just find it really interesting how different churches handle the sex topic so differently. And some people literally just act like it doesn't exist, and that we're just going to get through it and it'll be fine. So that's really, really interesting for me. another question I had while you were talking is for the women that who may be in the same situation you were in terms of they were being promiscuous, or maybe right now they have to use alcohol in order to maybe have fun or to kind of numb the pain. What would you say to those women to help them kind of sort of bring them out of the maybe the I guess the cloud that's over their head in terms of promiscuity and drug abuse and alcohol abuse?
Mm, I would say to them the same thing I say when I witness, and I tell them I've been where you are. I know what you're going through. I'm not just encouraging you to get out of your situation because I think I'm better than you or because I'm holier than thou. I've been there. I know the end of that road is death. I know the end of that road is lands to nowhere. For me, putting myself in constant situations like that led to rape. Who's to say what the enemy has planned for your life if you keep on that path? And I don't even want to preach fear on you. Let's just speak life. Like, God has so much better for you. Like, the thing about the enemy is he knows what God has for you. Your life is not about you, it's about your purpose. So
Right.
if the enemy can distract you from your purpose, he can distract you from expanding God's kingdom through you and how God desires to expand God's kingdom through you. And so he knows that distracting you, he's not going to distract you in a way that he knows. Basically, he knows what gets you distracted. He knows how to veer you off. He knows how to keep you from your purpose. He's going to use the things that you like, the things that seem tantalizing or tempting to you. And so while it seems like, oh, it's just, it's just a glass of just a drink, I'm just going to the club, it's just a joint, it's just me and this guy, we're just kicking it, it's nothing serious, and I'll stop having sex somewhere down the line when I get older in my 20s, or making all these other excuses. Like, do not demean or try to diminish your sin. Like, sin is sin. Like, no, you can't make an excuse for it to try to make it sound better than what it is. No matter which way you cut it, it's still wrong in God's eyes. And who's to say that you'll make it to your 20s to try to work it out? Like, you don't know what the enemy has planned for your life to try to cut you out before you even make it there. So why wait? And then even furthermore, why miss out on what God has for you? Anytime you're in sin, you're outside of the will of God. You're outside of the plans that he has for you. Think of your life like two roads going down. You can choose this path, which God has for you, or you can choose this path. If you choose this path that the enemy doesn't have, that God doesn't have for you, there's going to be things that you miss out on because you're going this way. And if you choose the path that God has for you, you're going to go this way. And so what are you missing out on because you're over here? Because you're at a position. And if there's anything that I've thought about this a few times, like, more so than the clubbing and the smoking and all that other stuff, I think about, like, man, like, what would my life have been like by now if I had known what I know now back then? Like, if I had spent all of my 25 years of living for the Lord, like, where would I be by now? Like, that's a crazy thought. Like how much further could I have been? And you never, God's thoughts and his ways are beyond this world. You never know what you miss out on when you choose not to trust God with your life.
Right.
You never know what he has for you. But I know for sure it's always better than what the enemy has for you. So, yeah, it's not worth it. It's not.
Good. That's good. And it's so funny you say that because yesterday I talked to, I went to a purity ball that was held for the organization that I mentor with. And one of the girls there who was a speaker at the workshop, she's 22, and she talks about how God led her to a place of abstinence and waiting, and now she's speaking to young girls. She's in the school system, going in, speaking to the girls. She has a conference coming up in May, and I was like, I think it's so amazing that at 22, she gets it. Like, it didn't take her a decade for God to bring her slowly back. And I said, at 31, I wish at 22 I would have known what I know now, and imagining what could have happened in those 9 years, where I was just kind of going around the mountain and doing the same thing and not getting any results. So it's so true. If we can get it at an earlier age, get it so that God can do what He wants to do in your life. So Jordan, I'm the girl you just spoke to, and my next question to you would be, what are my next steps? How do I get out of this lifestyle? How do I stop smoking? How do I stop drinking?
Your next step would be, after you've accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you've made the decision, okay, God, I trust you with my life. I know that everything is not going to be, it's not about saying that everything is going to be perfect 24/7, but it's about understanding and trusting that God will see you through and that He'll guide you through it, and that you're trusting Him to work the kinks out of your life. And after you've made that step, you then I would say your next step is to spend daily quiet time with God. Learn how to spend quiet time with the Lord, and that's where your strength and your peace is going to come from. And also, that's where you're going to learn how to trust God, is through your time with Him. If you think of a friend that you know very well, you begin to trust that friend after you all spend a lot of time together. You wouldn't just give your debit card to a stranger, but you would give your debit card to a friend that you trust. Well, many people would, but maybe some people wouldn't. But my point is that somebody that you known for a long time, you begin to trust them because of the time that you all spent together. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are Christian or identify themselves as Christian, and they're going to church every day or going to church every Sunday, and their lives have no peace. And they're like, I don't get it. I hear my pastor talk about God is going to do this for me. God is going to do that for me. But the problem is that they don't trust God because they don't have a personal relationship with Him outside of Sunday. If you want to learn how to trust God for yourself and get the promises that your pastor is talking about, and that the work that God has for you, you have to spend time with Him. How can you know someone if you never spend time with them? How can God give you everything that He has for you and trust you with everything that He has for you if you don't even know Him? If you don't even, like, I'm not going to give everything that I have to a friend that I don't even trust, to a friend that never spends time with me. If we think about how we are, like, if we don't want somebody who just comes to us when they want something, God is the same way. So you have to build a relationship, and that comes through time. And the more time with him that you spend, and the more you keep passing those tests, the stronger your relationship becomes. So that's the next step, is to spend personal time with Him through His Word and through prayer. And some might say, oh, well, I don't know how to read God's Word. Well, on my website at JordaneWrites.com, I created a solution for that. It's called a 27-day Bible study challenge. And I also it's also called the Single Woman's Devotional. And it basically sends you 27 emails for every day straight, where you're challenged to learn how to read the Word of God on your own. And it's fun too. So, and I'm also in the process of developing a prayer challenge to teach women how to pray as well. So,
amen. Good stuff. And this is definitely stuff that we need, because I don't think a lot of Christians recognize the importance of prayer, and how prayer is literally the key to everything that we need to unlock everything that we're looking for with God. And speaking even with people not having peace and not seeing the manifestations of what their pastors say is supposed to happen in their lives on Sunday. What about those women? Because you do blog on singleness, and you do blog to reach the single women audience. What about those women who have been waiting for a few years, and women like myself who've been waiting a few years, and we're saying, okay, well, I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying there are women that are saying, God, where is the man that you have for me? Where is the package and the gift that you say is going to come to me if I wait, if I do it the way that you said I'm supposed to do it? Like, what do you say to those women who are maybe waiting, patiently waiting?
Okay, well, first off, let's purify our motives. Why are
Right,
you waiting? You are
right,
like we put a prize on our virginity or our decision to wait on marriage, and because it's so uncommon, but we forget to the fact that even though it's uncommon, it's what we're supposed to do. It's our
right,
reasonable service. It's yes, you do get a blessing from it. Yes, God does have a reward for you from it, but that's simply because you get the rewards and you reap the benefits because when you're on his path. So when you're
right,
in his path, you're in his protection. When you're in his protection, you're in his will. When you're in his will, you can get what he has for you when you're in his will.
right,
So first off, let's purify our motives. Don't go off and say, I want you to, yes, wait till marriage. Yes, do what God has for you. Yes, trust for him. Trust him. Yes, give your life to him. But don't do it because you want something out of it. Don't do it because you want to get a man out of it, because that's the wrong motive. And quite honestly, you're gonna, if your heart's not in it, you're going to, I hate to say it, but it's easier to give up because you're not, you're not in it for the right reasons. In living for God, it's not easy every day. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So you want to make sure that you're in it for the right reasons. It might not be easy, but it is peaceful and it's safe. So safe meaning that when I go to the doctor's office, I don't have to play guess and check on what's going to happen. When the doctor comes out, I already know. Anyways, the second part of your question, you said, what would I say to a woman who says that? I wrote a blog. It's called "I'm Abstinent Now What," and it's on my website jordanwrites.com, and it completely answers that question. I would encourage you to go look at it. But basically, I talk about the fact that after you've given up sex and you've decided to live your life for the Lord in other ways, there's still way more that God has to get out of you before he can present your spouse to you. So thinking that, oh, I've given up sex, I've given up this or that for God. God, where's what you have for me? First off, that's pride. Second off, it's a sense of entitlement. So
mm-hmm.
your heart's not in the right place. Third off, once you gave up sex, okay, now God has to get the rest of the gunk out of your heart that was causing you to do those actions. I always say the problem wasn't in between your legs, it was in your heart, meaning that the reason, meaning
I
that,
love it. I love it.
yeah, meaning that the reason why you were doing what you were doing anyway wasn't the was the real issue. The real issue was what was in your heart, the unforgiveness that you had against your father, against your mother, because they weren't there for you, because they did A, B, or C against you, or the insecurities that you had because of, like myself, you were unpopular in school and people picked on you, or the lack of self-esteem you had because you were always the girl that was picked last or never really got asked out on a date. That was my story at one point in time in my life. So all of those things are in your heart, and those things are and the sex is only a reciprocal action of those feelings that you feel in your heart that are ungodly, the insecurities, the unforgiveness. All of those things are what cause you to look for love and promiscuity and in men and in relationships instead of in God first. So now that you've given up the action, God has to purify the heart, because if God doesn't purify your heart, you're not a beautiful presentation that's ready for your spouse or your mate. Like, even after, like, the Lord has blessed me to meet my future husband, but even now, like, God is still working things out of me, still helping me identify, okay, Jordan, you're still prideful in that area. I need you to be humble in this area of your life. I need you to give grace in this area of your life. And so and that's and I've been walking with the Lord now for, I don't know, 4 years now, 4 years, 4 years now. So it's so much that God has to still do in you, even after you give your life to him, before you can call yourself trying to add someone else to the equation and adding someone else to the confusion that you haven't allowed God to work out yet.
Yes. That was a sermon, Jordan. The problem is not in between your legs. The problem is in your heart. Oh man, that was so good. That was so good. And y'all, Jordan has a man. Let's praise God for that.
Amen.
Okay, so as we kind of close out the interview, what is the biggest takeaway that you want women and men to take away from not only this interview but from your book? What would be your dream, the dream thing that God would do through your book for women and men?
Oh my goodness. If it caused women to just not only give their lives to the Lord, but trust God and turn their lives around and trust Him and share that love of Christ with others, and it just created a ripple effect. Like, not just, okay, I've given my life to God, but sharing it with someone else. If my book could just create a ripple effect, if you could just take what you've learned today and purchase the book. Not, maybe you feel like, okay, well, I don't need it, but I know a sister who does, and then it leads her to give her life to the Lord, and then she causes someone else to help them, and it creates a just a pattern. And the thing is, whenever you do that for someone, you're not just affecting them, you're affecting their family and their future generations. So at
Right.
that point, you're helping to set and establish the foundation for a whole nother generation and family to live their lives for God. Like, why wouldn't God bless you for that? How could you not get blessed for that? All through one book. So the book is really powerful. I can't express that enough, and it has the ability to change your life if you allow it to. And if you know if you feel like, okay, well, I feel like maybe I don't, it's not for me, but I know somebody it is for, get it for somebody else, for a woman that it can change their lives, a guy who is in need of help, a person who just needs their relationship with the Lord deepen. So yeah, if you could just help me change the lives of others, that would be such a blessing, because it's about the message that's in it, overall, not just the book, but the message. So yeah.
That's good, 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 good. Okay, so tell us where the book is available.
Okay, like I was saying, you can get the book anywhere. It's sold everywhere books are sold internationally. Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Even if you go into the store and they say, "Oh, we don't have the book on the shelves," you can ask them and they'll order it for you. And you can pick it up at the bookstore. You can get a Kindle, on a Kindle version or ebook version, um, any way you can imagine. And I'm also selling I'm also giving away my book sample for free, so you can read the introduction as well as the first two chapters. And those parts of the books talk about some of the things that we talked about in in the in the interview just now, as far as growing closer to God, and how to do that, and opening up your prayer life and your reading the Word, as well as um, just other components of having a relationship with God that I go into deeper into the book, through my life and the things that I overcame that I talked about. But yeah, pretty much everywhere. And you can get the free book sample if you just Google free book sample, I Believe in God Now What? You'll see it on there. Or you can just go to my website, jordanwrites.com, and you'll see it on the homepage.
Okay, amazing. Tell us all of your sites. So, website, social media, how can we get in contact with you?
JordanWrites.com, Jordone, Writes, WRITES.com. And you can also find me via social media at Jordan Writes, or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Alrighty. Do you have any events coming up?
Uh, just have a youth conference that was postponed due to weather and illness. So not sure of the rescheduled date, but I will keep everybody posted on my website. And if you're on my email list, I always let everybody know that way too. So I'm not sure what date it'll be, but it'll be in Florence, South Carolina. So if you're in the South Carolina area, if you're interested in coming by, I'm going to be talking about overcoming our identity crisis that how Satan aims to steal our identity, especially the identities of our youth. So.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I think I have someone that I should connect you with. The girl I was talking about earlier, the 22-year-old, she's doing her conference is based around identity and especially for young women. So she's going to be doing that with the teens in May. So I'm going to
Cool.
you guys on Facebook.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Okay, Jordan, thank you so much. Especially through all the technical difficulty. I don't know what's going on tonight, but I truly believe that your interview is going to bless so many women and men. Just because the enemy fought so hard to stop this interview, and I've never had this much like difficulty getting an interview to start, to continue, to end. So I really believe that your interview is going to bless so many people. And I pray that God continues to enlarge your territory, continues to bless you and cover you. I pray that his protection surrounds you. And yeah, I say go forth in boldness in what God has called you to do. I believe that you have a great message. I believe that you have a pure heart. And I know that God is going to bless you for your obedience and for your sacrifice. So yeah, if you can hold back 1 second, I'm going to stop the broadcast, okay? So thank you guys for joining us.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
And make sure to share across all your social media platforms and help Jordan to take her message across the world.
Oh, yeah. All right? I forgot to mention, this is important. With this virtual book tour that I'm doing, I'm also giving away a free book. So if you share this video and you tag me, just tag at Jordone Writes via Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, what have you. Just share it and tag me. I will and also write a little blurb about why you're excited to read the book. I will enter you into the free book giveaway contest.
There you go. So free book. Listen, I'm a book junkie. So anytime I hear free book, I'm jumping all over it. So definitely make sure that you guys share the broadcast, tag Jordan on your shares, and write why you are excited, because I think this is a really good book and I think you're going to be blessed. So guys, have a good night. I'll see you next time whenever a feature. Oh, we have a feature coming up February 10th with a couple out of California, Christina and Steven. And so I'll be interviewing them. I'll put up a graphic for that in the next few days for their interview. So talk to y'all later. Peace. Bye. Love you.
Love you too.